first at 9. This is Other Derana 24/7.
In your headlines tonight, President sets price control for imported rice. Prime Minister meets world leaders in Davos. Government to consider drought relief. And Donald Trump to take oaths as the 45th President of the United States. Hello there everyone, good evening. This is Other Derana 24/7 News Tonight and I'm Dasaman Premithunga. Let's begin with the local news. Now, President Maithripala Sirisena emphasizes that a kilogram of imported rice cannot be sold exceeding 76 rupees under any circumstances. The President made these comments when the Special Presidential Task Force gathered to discuss relief efforts to those who are affected by the prevailing drought. The President has also advised to take measures to import required stocks of rice suitable for consumption. Addressing the meeting, President Sirisena further stated that the Indonesian government, upon his request, had agreed to provide 10,000 metric tons of rice in the coming weeks. Representatives from the World Bank and World Food Programme were also present at the meeting. Minister of Plantation Industries Naveen Dissanayake says the government will seek international assistance to provide drought relief to the 3 plantation crops affected by the droughts. The minister made these comments at a media briefing in Colombo today.
Drought relief to be given to the 3 sectors, tea, rubber and coconut. We are at the moment doing a calculation of the possible damage because of the drought.
Now, meanwhile, the Director General of the Department of Meteorology, Lalit Chandrapala, says the threat to drinking water supplies due to the impending drought could be eased out with expected showers in the next few days. Lalit Chandrapala expressed this to Other Derana today.
This spell of rain will not end the drought which has been experienced in the northern and especially in the dry zone of Sri Lanka. But to a certain extent, it will ease the water shortage issues in these parts of the country, that is especially in the eastern and north central provinces.
UN High Commissioner for Human Rights Zeid Ra'ad Al Hussein commended Sri Lanka's efforts and positive progress in improving the human rights situation in the island during talks with Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe.
Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe yesterday met UN High Commissioner for Human Rights on the sidelines of the Davos World Economic Summit. Ra'ad Al Hussein expressed that the UNHCR looks forward to a system that will protect human rights of all Sri Lankans. Talks were also held between Erna Solberg, the Prime Minister of Norway, and Sri Lankan Prime Minister, centering in bilateral ties. Premier Wickremesinghe has emphasized on the importance of a program that empowers lives of war victims. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Wickremesinghe and New Zealand Trade Minister Todd McClay have discussed on a framework to boost economic ties which could result in a free trade pact between the 2 nations. The Managing Director of the International Monetary Fund, Christine Lagarde, during talks with the Sri Lankan Prime Minister, expressed appreciation over the country's efforts to create financial discipline and policies directing the economy in the right path. Meanwhile, CEO and Executive Managing Director of Japan Cooperative Bank, Tadashi Maeda, assured the organization's full support to Sri Lanka's development process. Tadashi Maeda also confirmed Prime Minister Wickremesinghe that JCB has decided to improve the country's classification for Sri Lanka. Meanwhile, co-president of the Hinduja Group of India has expressed interest in investing oil refinery in Sri Lanka. Prime Minister Wickremesinghe also held talk with his Vietnamese counterpart on the sidelines of the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe held discussions with the Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh, Chandrababu Naidu, focusing on strengthening economic and trade relations with the southeastern state of India.
The United States says the closure of the Derana station is ensured due to changing audience habits and increasing costs of operating shortwave transmissions. In a statement, the U.S. Embassy in Colombo said that it is returning with gratitude its lease of over 400 acres of property in Derana back to the Sri Lankan government in its entirety, including any improvements to the property. The Derana station transmitted Voice of America programs from Washington through shortwave radio signals to audiences around the world. The U.S. Embassy statement followed the Sri Lankan government's announcement earlier this week that cabinet approval was granted to cancel the lease agreement on the Voice of America premises in Derana, Puttalam. The government said it will now take over the land that was leased out to the American Embassy in 1991. The U.S. Embassy added that Voice of America would not have succeeded in its mission of telling America's story to the world without the support of successive Sri Lankan governments. Is an interesting feature story for you. Many have proven that determination and courage will take them to amazing places in life. Now, Ada Derana has always brought to you such inspiring stories of amazing people. Today, we have a story of two young Theros from Bamunukotuwa, Arlagangwila, Polonnaruwa, who won our attention because they had a big dream. But their dream is no longer a dream.
In September last year, Derana's Lokaya Saha Lokayo program told the story of two bhikkhus who engaged in the tough task of brickwork. Siblings, now bhikkhus, Kadavata Saddamurti Thero and Kadavata Samudralankara Thera, attended to Pirivene education in the morning and dedicated their evenings to build a home for their mother. Now 18 years and 11 years of age, they had lived in the same home, sharing good times in life and also witnessing the worst of challenges when their father abandoned the family in 2006. However, their mother, 45-year-old Manjula Nilmini, engaged in a constant battle to feed 3 children while grappling to earn an income. In 2007, the second eldest of the brothers was ordained, followed by the youngest of 3 brothers being ordained in 2010. When Derana's Lokaya Saha Lokayo program told their story, generous support followed in from many of our viewers. The production team succeeded in building a house for the family.
මගේ හීනයක් වුණු බලාපොරොත්තුවක් තිබුණා මගේ අම්මට නිවසක් තනා දෙන්න.
My dream was to build a home for my mother. It is a reality today. I wish to thank Derana's Lokaya Saha Lokayo production team and everyone who helped us.
පුණ්‍යානුමෝදනා සිද්ධ කරනවා.
ඇත්තටම මගේ ජීවිතයේ තිබිච්ච ලොකු බරක්
I feel like they relieved the biggest burden and sorrow in my life. I'm grateful to the team.
අපිට උදව් උපකාර කරපු ඒ සියලුම අයට ඇත්තටම මම ගොඩාක් හෘදයාංගම සතුට පළ කරනවා.
A family that was broken now has a house that they can all call home.
And on that emotional note, we take a short break. We'll be back with more news. Welcome back. The Mattala International Airport is quite busy with flight operations due to the resurfacing activities underway at the Bandaranaike International Airport runway. Reportedly, most of the flights land in Mattala for flight services. The Mattala Airport is Sri Lanka's second international airport. Due to ongoing maintenance at the BIA, Sri Lankan Airlines has decided to have a transit stop at Mattala for their flights to Beijing and Shanghai. Mattala Airport manager says that Sri Lankan Airlines, Fly Dubai, Jakarta-based airline Sri Vijaya, as well as rental airlines and nearly 14 other airlines use the services of the Mattala International Airport.
The Mattala Rajapaksa Airport is supplying all requirements to passengers. We have the necessary materials and human resources available here. We have saved a lot of foreign currency for the country through this optional airport.
Minister of Public Enterprise Development Kabir Hashim claims that the previous government is responsible for a staggering loss of $500 million in Sri Lankan Airlines. Addressing a media briefing today, he reacted to a statement made by the joint opposition regarding his involvement in a loss of 1.5 billion rupees.
$150,000 we pay as lease to the A330s. If we had taken over, we would have had to pay $1.4 million a month. $1 million extra we'll be paying virtually. Already we are losing. So that $1 million will just add to our loss. $98 million compensation. That is the cost to this country as a result, signing it at a rate far above the market rate. So signed by the previous regime. If we don't settle at a certain time, then they will go to courts and sue us.
Questions were raised about the offer by Peace Air to purchase Sri Lankan Airlines at a consideration of $5.5 billion. We
shortlisted 3 companies, TPG, Peace Air, Maldivian company. It's a very transparent process. We are looking at the best possible for the country. We need to get the airline out. We can't just playing the game with the airline. We need a person who has the credibility, who has the ability to turn this airline around and to make sure the Sri Lankan flag flies high. I'll just quickly say, governments, at the moment, the policy is not to divest our shares in private banks. We want to hold the shares.
And here's some interesting news for all of you who love online shopping. World-famous Chinese e-commerce company Alibaba has shown keen interest in investing in Sri Lanka and to build an e-commerce platform to further promote its online business ventures here. The Ministry of Finance said that the Chinese business magnate Jack Ma, who is the founder and executive chairman of the Alibaba Group, expressed his interest during a meeting with Sri Lankan Finance Minister Ravi Karnanayaka. The meeting was held on the sidelines of the World Economic Forum 2017 being held in Davos, Switzerland. Jack Ma has said that his proposed investment will generate hundreds of employment opportunities to Sri Lankan youth. Time now to take a look at trading at the stock market. Markets were higher after the close today as gains in the investment trust, healthcare and power and energy sectors led shares higher. At the close in Colombo, the CSC All Share added 0.08%. Here's Amanda Lokugamage from First Capital Holdings, the weekly stock market roundup.
GSP Plus upbeat was short-lived, leading to a continuous downtrend in the equity market throughout the week. Continuous foreign selling seen in the government securities market led to a rise in interest rates. These reasons are likely to provide a mixed investor sentiment on the overall market.
The Sri Lankan rupee ended slightly higher today due to dollar selling by exporters in shortened trade. Rupee forwards were active with 2-week forwards ending at 150 rupees and 85 cents per dollar, firmer from Thursday's close. Let's now take a look at how the Sri Lankan rupee traded against other currencies. We take a short break now. We'll be back with sports news. In sports news, it's tennis all the way, and Andy Murray eased into the 4th round of the Australian Open with a comprehensive 6-4, 6-2 win over American Sam Kerry yesterday. Now, the raging favourite after champion Novak Djokovic's stunning second round on Thursday. Top seed Murray also showed no sign of discomfort to the right ankle he twisted in his previous win against Russian teenager Andrei Rublev.
Seeking his maiden title in Melbourne after 5 losses in the final, Murray was made to work hard to close out victory in the 3rd set at the Hinson Arena against the man who eliminated Djokovic from the 3rd round at Wimbledon last year. In the meantime, the women's world number 1 and reigning champion Angelique Kerber wasted no time in racing into the 4th round with a 6-0, 6-4 victory over Kristina Pliskova at the Rod Laver Arena. The 29-year-old
The sun rises in America on the first term of Donald Trump.
We will make America great again.
On this day, a public celebration of the US presidency after a hard-fought battle with Hillary Clinton and upstaging her from the political spectrum. His love for his country outshined all his shortcomings and won him the presidency.
A new projection. Ohio will go to NBC News projects that Donald Trump is the apparent winner in Florida. A night that will go down in history, a stunning upset as Donald Trump triumphs over Hillary Clinton, elected president of the United States.
In Washington, where so many battles have been fought, and now President Trump will have to fight more. Political rivalry being set aside in a show of democracy and unity for the entire world to see. This is the inauguration of Donald John Trump, the 45th President of the United States of America.
Quite a momentous occasion. Well, in about an hour, Donald Trump will take oaths as the 45th President of the United States of America. We at Ada Derana will be carrying his oath-taking ceremony live, which will begin at around 10 p.m. Now, the soon-to-be U.S. President Donald Trump has arrived in Washington and he's going to be there for at least 4 years. Hundreds of thousands of people are expected to stream into Washington to watch as President-elect Donald Trump is sworn in. He will be sworn into office as the new U.S. President at 10:30 p.m. Sri Lanka time tonight.
Donald Trump's brash statements about ISIS, his cozy relationship with Russia, and his criticism of NATO, his decision of building a wall in the Mexico border, have the world bracing for a new type of American president. All eyes will be on the US Capitol as Trump formally replaces President Barack Obama in the White House. The newly elected US President is sworn into office by the Chief Justice of the United States every 4 years at noon on January 20th, as prescribed by the US Constitution. The oath is part of a ceremony making the peaceful transition of power on the steps in front of the US Capitol. A ceremony is then followed by a parade down Pennsylvania Avenue and later celebrated through a series of inaugural balls. President Obama and the First Lady will accompany Mr. Trump in a motorcade to the U.S. Capitol for the official ceremony, where they will be joined by members of Congress, politicians, as well as supporters. Former President Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton, who lost to Trump in November's elections, are expected to attend. An estimated 800 to 900,000 people are expected to flood the nation's capital for the inauguration, but it is unclear whether they will be there in celebration or protest. President Barack Obama drew an estimated 1.8 million people to Washington when he took office 8 years ago. Meanwhile, according to Elliot Ferguson, president of Destination DC, the level of enthusiasm and demand for hotel rooms has not reached that of previous inaugurations. Some hotels have reduced the minimum night stay from 4 nights to 2. Other hotels are only 50% full, but higher-end hotels appear to have more bookings.
Still in Trump news, as the saying goes, you can't satisfy everyone. Now, many people are taking to the streets in Washington and New York protesting against the inauguration of Donald Trump. Now, not only were these protests held in the US, one took place right here in Sri Lanka, organized by several labor organizations.
The protest against US President-elect Donald Trump's campaign promised anti-refugee and migrant policy was conducted at the US Embassy in Colombo. United Socialist Party, United Workers Congress and members of many other labor organizations participated in the protest. Meanwhile, anti-Trump protests have been taking place in the build-up to the inauguration in many US cities, including the capital, Washington, D.C. Many protests took a rather aggressive nature and police officers were deployed to control chaotic situations. Meanwhile, Hollywood artists, actors and actresses also expressed their criticism regarding Trump's leadership during the past few days. However, veteran actor Robert De Niro's sarcastic comments on Trump's Twitter messages during the United We Stand rally against President-elect has become viral on social media sites.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here tonight with all of you and all of my overrated friends. Before I introduce our special guest, I want to read a few tweets to you. I know you haven't heard them because they won't be sent until later, in the middle of the night. De Niro should give back his Oscars. Voting was rigged. There's only one true raging bull, and that is Vladimir Putin. One more. An extremely credible source told me that Noble uses raw fish in their sushi, and the portions are so small. Sad.
Well, we're now cutting across for a live feed of the president's inauguration.
Losing candidate in history, almost 3 million more in the popular vote. And you're right, it's got to stink.
Her choice will be very interesting, how she lives the next 4 years and what she decides to involve herself in the politics of the day. And no clues yet, I don't believe, from anyone as to how she intends to do that.
And the motorcade is on the move now, leaving the White House grounds, making the short drive to the Capitol, where a very short time from now, Donald Trump will become the next president of the United States. There's former President Bush.
You know, the Bushes and the Clintons have become friends, and one thing that might make it a little easier today on the Clintons is that friendship between George W. Bush and Laura Bush and the Clintons. And, you know, I said this before, none of the former presidents on that stage will have voted for Donald Trump. So
when you said that before, Nicole, I have to say it was sort of like, it was a wonderful observation, but it really hit me like a sledgehammer. It is such an, I mean, it did. I mean, this is why I think there has been a difficult time to unify the political world around this moment.
And probably very healthy, because I think the people that voted for Donald Trump and put him over the edge wanted a shakeup of establishment politics, not just Republican or Democrat.
A big piece of why they voted for him, quite honestly. Going by the Treasury Department now, on their way to, we'll be looking at the west side of the Capitol, which was the Ronald Reagan innovation for this day. You want to be sworn in.
Well, the live coverage of the inauguration will continue after the news. Now, here in Sri Lanka, I'm sure what's on everyone's mind is how will Sri Lanka benefit from a Trump presidency? Now, we pose that question to Asanga Abegunasekara, who is the Director General of the National Strategic Institute of Sri Lanka.
I hope it will affect in a better way than the previous administration, because the previous administration the leadership was not so good, positive to the entire world. Obama dropped more than 2,500 drones bombs to the entire world, and so he won the Nobel Prize also. But there's a question there for peace. Hopefully that things would get better with this president, and he will be able to create a peaceful world. But in Sri Lanka's relationship, I hope will be much better, and they will look at us in a positive way in terms of human rights and various other issues. So I think Trump might sort of reset the foreign policy, which is the pivot to Asia policy of Obama. I think he will move in a different direction.
Still in Trump's inauguration, as one of the world's leading nations is going through its biggest political transition, the entire world is wondering who is the man to wield its power as the nation's leader. Who is Donald Trump? This is our insight into his life and career leading to the presidency of the United States.
Bigger and better and stronger.
Donald Trump has indeed surprised many by not only entering the race for the Republican Party's 2016 nomination for president, but eventually winning the whole race and becoming the 45th president of the United States of America. We've heard his rhetoric, we've heard his fancy statements and big bold news-grabbing headlines, but who exactly is Donald Trump? Donald John Trump was born in 1946 in Queens, New York. He's been wealthy his entire life. His father, Fred Trump, built a very successful real estate development business in the New York area, allowing he and his wife, the Scottish immigrant Mary McLeod, to settle their family in the upscale Jamaica Estate neighborhood. There, Donald attended the private Kew Forest School before his parents sent him to the New York Military Academy when he was 13 years old. Donald did well and eventually earned his bachelor's degree in economics from the University of Pennsylvania. When he was 25 years old, Donald moved to Manhattan and took a bigger role in the family business. But within 2 years, he and the company were in hot water as Trump management was accused by the Justice Department of violating the Fair Housing Act by refusing to rent or negotiate rentals because of race and color. Though Trump eventually settled the charges out of court, the company was still blasted as anti-black on the front page of the New York Times. Donald became president of the company in 1974 and after the investment from his father took on bigger projects in Manhattan with some notable successes, including selling the property to the city of New York that became the Javits Convention Center, the place where Hillary Clinton was supposed to hold her victory rally. Around this time, he began his 15-year-old marriage to Czech-born athlete and model Ivana Selnikova. They became fixtures on the New York social circuit and their 1992 divorce played out in the tabloids. In 1993, Donald married the actress Marla Maples, the woman he had been cheating on his first wife Ivana with for 6 years. Meanwhile, bad business decisions like his acquisition of the Taj Mahal Atlantic City Hotel and Casino had him deep in the red by the end of the 80s, forcing him to declare several businesses bankrupt, costing his investors hundreds of millions of dollars. But the Donald doesn't stay down and out for long. With the help of about $70 million in inheritance after his father's death, his fortune were buoyed once again. By the early 2000s, Trump's name began appearing on development and towers all over the country and the world, including across the street from the United Nations headquarters and towers in Chicago, Honolulu, and Toronto. Though projects in Fort Lauderdale, New Orleans, and Dubai failed to reach completion. In 2005, Donald married his third and current wife, the Slovenian model Melania Norse. But what really put Trump on the map of American consciousness is his role as executive producer and host of the popular NBC reality TV show The Apprentice and its spin-off Celebrity Apprentice, in which contestants engage in competitive business endeavors before final meetings in a boardroom set across the table from the Donald and some of his most trusted associates like daughter Ivanka. Trump has made out like a bandit from his involvement in the show, earning more than $200 million over its 11-year run. Last year, Donald declared his candidacy for the Republican presidential nomination in a long-winded, completely off-the-cuff speech that was widely mocked by the American media. Building on his xenophobic hatred of President Obama and unsubstantial claims that the commander-in-chief was actually born in Kenya, Trump's main campaign pledge has been that he would build a massive wall along the entire length of the US-Mexico border to keep Mexico from sending its criminals to the United States, despite the numerous documented case of Trump employing undocumented workers in many of his building projects and hotels. After declaring his candidacy, federal election regulators released new details of Trump's wealth and financial holdings that strongly contradicted his claims that his net worth is in excess of $10 billion. In fact, the government says Trump's assets are worth far less, about $1.4 billion. Despite all odds, despite everyone being against him, his own party, the mainstream media, and many world leaders, Donald Trump knew exactly what will resonate with the American people, and he took that message to the heart of the American people. His campaign slogan, "Make America Great Again," certainly brought him the votes that was needed to put him over the required electoral college votes against a formidable opponent, Hillary Clinton, who was pitched to have won the race, and made him the underdog who now can claim for the biggest upset of a presidential election in modern history by winning the presidency and becoming the leader of the free world.
On that note, we take a short break. We'll be back with your weather report. As mentioned a while ago by the director of the Met Department, showers or thunder showers will occur at times in the northern, north central, eastern and Uva provinces and in the Hambantota district. Fairly heavy falls, more than 75 millimeters, are also likely at some places. Showers or thunder showers will occur at several places elsewhere after 2 p.m. tomorrow. Misty conditions can be expected at some places of the island during the morning, particularly in the Sabaragamuwa and central provinces. Fairly strong winds, at times about 50 kilometers per hour, can be expected over the country. Here's the city-by-city weather forecast now. And that's a wrap of tonight's news on Ada Derana 24/7. Thank you very much for your company. For the very latest 24 hours a day, just log on to www.adaderana.lk or like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Good night.
This is Ada Derana, and you're watching Ada Derana 24/7.